Hello and welcome back to another DCM Online Academy. My name is Megan Lowry and today we're going to go a little bit into color correction with Lumetri in Premiere Pro. So when we click our color tab, this is what often pops up. We have our scopes over here. We have our Lumetri Color color correction tabs over here that have basic color corrections. They have wheels, curves, creative things where you can add LUTs over here. We're mainly going to be focusing on these scopes and what all of them mean and how we can interpret them to color balance our footage. If you do not see this window here of our scopes, we go up to window and we want to make sure that our scopes are checkmarked so that they pop up here. And then if you don't see all three of these, which are our most common scopes that we use, we right click and you can select which scope you want to see and the parade type and the waveform type. Now this is important because the most common scopes are vector scope, RGB parade, RGB waveform, and Luma waveform. Those are 4, but we only see 3 here. That is because we want to change the waveform type to RGB or Luma. That is what our RGB looks like, and just to not confuse it with this one, we're going to go ahead and put that back in Luma. So what are these great for? Our vector scope is great for checking skin tones and making sure that they're displayed correctly. Our RGB parade and waveform, if this one was in our RGB waveform, show red, blue, and green channels and are great for balancing colors and for white balance. And then our Luma waveform shows the brightness and helps you set light and darker levels. So starting with our vector scope with color correction, this line right here is where all skin tones will fall. So it looks like right now her skin tone is pretty accurate, although we're looking pretty flat and dull in the overall window here. Her skin tone is reaching up towards that line. If I were to take my tint and tint the whole image, you see that our skin tone line is now going towards the magenta color. So that's obviously not right, but some things are a little more subtle and you might not be able to notice, but we just want to make sure we're climbing on that scale. See if I add a little bit more orange. That might be a little more true to her skin tone, but it is making the entire background orange. Next, we're going to go into our color wheels and match. So these are really great for a more detailed white balance. So we're using our shadows, midtones, and highlights color wheels for more detail. So if we increase our highlights, you can see that our scopes are growing taller. And the same with shadows. If we decrease the shadows closer to 0, you'll see that our scopes here are creeping down towards this line, adding more shadows, and we're getting more darkness and shadows here. Anything that is going towards or below 0 is crushing all of those highlights, and we never want our shadows to be exactly 0. We also want to keep our highlights below 100. That is a basic rule for highlights and shadows and exposure. Now, in these wheels, you can also tint, just like I tinted before, these midtones, highlights, and shadows. So generally, the color wheel and match and the basic color correction are what you're going to use for just some simple color correction. We can also get into creative if you want to upload a LUT or go for a different look. But generally, these scopes are the most commonly used to help you with color correction. Thanks for tuning in for another DCM Online Academy. Make sure you follow us for more.